But let's get into this conversation quickly. The family of Zambia's former president, Edgar Lungu, has halted the return of his body from South Africa. He was due to be flown back home on Wednesday on a private charter plane after days of uncertainty and negotiations between the family and the government. Well, Zambian historian Dr Sishuwa Sishuwa joins us now to give us some reaction. Dr Sishuwa, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, it's been weeks at this point that we've been talking about the uncertainty on the repatriation of former President Lungu from South Africa back to Zambia. It seems that the tug of war between government and the Lungu family not coming to an end, with the Lungu family still wanting much control over what happens to his remains. I mean, what do you think, you know, I suppose the fallout of this is going to reach to, and perhaps you can talk to us about what the discourse is looking like in Zambia over this issue?
Well, the president of Zambia, Hakainde Hichilema, addressed the nation at 7 p.m. this evening, making two major decisions. The first was he cancelled the national mourning that should have ended on Monday next week. He said that the life had to move on. And secondly, he said that discussions will continue with the family. And he stated that the government is determined to make sure that Lungu's remains are buried in Zambia. I think there are two things to say about the president's decision. The first is the decision to cancel the national mourning itself appears to be a result of the latest differences between the two parties. As you know, they had come together earlier in the week. They reached an agreement that the remains of the former president would be repatriated to Zambia on Wednesday this week, which was yesterday. But the Lungu family decided against taking the body back to Zambia after they highlighted a number of commitments that the government had violated. Chief among them, for example, was the unilateral decision made by the Zambian government to restrict who could receive the body in Lusaka to people who were specifically invited by the Zambian authorities. Now, the Lungu family felt that it shouldn't be the case. You know, he was a former president, but he was also a leader of the main opposition party, and supporters felt that they were entitled to come to the airport and receive his remains, and that decision should not have been limited to a few people. Those were invited, again, were decided by Zambian authorities without a consultation with the family. And I think that was a major source of grievance for the family. The second concern was that, you know, the government departed from a prior arrangement that what should happen at the airport on arrival is simply military honors, after which the body will be taken to the private residence of the late former president. When the program was released by the government, it appeared that there was a church service organized at the airport. Again, the family complained that this wasn't agreed with the family. And there are a number of other concerns that they also raised, which pointed to unilateral decisions on the Zambian side. So they expressed those grievances, and they decided against taking the body to Lusaka. Now, when the national address was made this evening, people expected that the president would address those grievances from the family, but he didn't speak to that. And he instead said they are determined to make sure that the body is buried to Zambia. How that will happen, I don't know, but it suggests that maybe the government is committed to further negotiation with the family, because it is not within the power of the Zambian authorities to determine where the family buries the body, for example.
Yeah, I mean, the president in this address saying that our doors as government remain open for further engagement as appropriate. But, I mean, you talk about them cancelling this period of mourning, and I actually want to read from it because some interesting wording that has been used. He says, "Our country cannot afford a state of indefinite mourning. Given the circumstances, I wish to inform the nation that as of today, the 19th of June, 2025, this particular national mourning period is officially over." But can we talk a little bit about South Africa's role in the position that all of this puts our country in? The president of Zambia speaking about how it was at the Zambian government's request, and he says, and I quote, "The South African government prepared extensively with military honours mounted by the South African National Defence Force, who did so in vain as the former president's body was not availed by the family for repatriation." I mean, where does this leave South Africa? What does South Africa do and say?
I think South Africa has handled this matter very well. They have stayed clear of both parties. They have not taken sides with the family or with the Zambian government because they understand very well that this is a matter primarily for the family to decide. You know, in Zambia, there's no law that says, that provides for how the remains of a former president who dies out of the country should be handled, or even the funeral of the president or the former president himself. And so the family here is the aggrieved party, and I think that it is correct to respect the wishes of the family, because in the case of South Africa, if you recall, there was an Angolan general who died in this country, and there was a standoff again between the Angolan government and the family of that Angolan general. The South African government quite correctly stood back, and both parties actually took each other to court. The courts here ruled that the family had the discretion to determine what happened to the body of the general. And I think that what we are seeing here in the part of Pretoria is a decision to say, look, this is a domestic issue between the Zambian government and the family of the late President Lungu. And these are the parties that should decide what happened together. But I think that the family ultimately has a final say on the matter.
Yeah, we await to see it. In the meantime, though, a former statesman, a former president of Zambia, his remains still very much in South Africa. Thank you so much for your time, though. Dr. Sishuwa there, Zambian historian and senior lecturer in history at the Stellenbosch University. As we watch that story as it continues to develop. Do stay with Newsfeed PM, the late edition. More news on the other side.